Well, the Armored Core 6 gameplay we've all been waiting for has finally been released. And man, oh man, I don't even know where I should even begin. You know what? For starters, let's get on the presentation of the game. I'm liking everything that I see. I like just how fluid the movement is, and I love how the momentum of the AC units grinds across the map, and you just see the sparks come up from the bottom of the AC unit's feet. The attention to detail is really hitting hard in this game. You know, with that being said, I can always hype up some graphics. Anyone can just hype up some graphics, but is this really the Armored Core game that we want to play? I'm gonna be quite honest with you. The one thing about this game that I've been excited for the most is that multiplayer component, the PvP. That is the main reason I've been waiting for this game. I've always wanted a game that I could just sink my teeth into for months on end because, let's be honest, I'm not finding any multiplayer games that I'm enjoying right now. And I want something that I can commit and put some actual effort and skill into. And you know what? As much as I do love this gameplay demo, I have to admit, it's definitely not perfect. There are some problems, okay? The main thing is the Dark Souls lock-on in the game. Now, of course, as I mentioned, I am getting this game for multiplayer. Now, how is this lock-on going to affect the multiplayer? Because in previous Armored Core games, we would have to actually manually aim, whether it be on the twin sticks or the tank controls. I know everyone does not like the tank controls, but me personally, I think it added a lot of depth and a new kind of flavor to the video game because it never felt like any other game that you would play. It made driving an AC unit feel all the more special. And now with that taken away, it's just, I don't know, man. It just doesn't feel right to me shooting a gun and not actually being able to aim it. Because at that point, the game is practically playing itself. And I really just wanted to shit on my friends in this game more than anything. Because now, with this game being lock-on focused, alright, we all know that the game is also made by the lead game designer behind Sekiro. So yes, this is very Sekiro-esque combat. You know, it's very reminiscent to that of Dark Souls, but I'd say it's a little bit more to Sekiro because they have an entire stagger system in the game. We've seen how when the AC unit shoots an enemy, the enemy does eventually stagger. Now, of course, that's definitely going to happen when we fight other players in the game. Now, when a game comes from being one of the most intense, action-packed shooting experiences ever made, with very hardcore gameplay, and having an over-reliance on reflex and skill due to the dedication of playing the game and getting used to its controls, when I look at Armored Core 6, I just don't want to see myself dancing, fighting my opponent time and time again, playing a guessing game the entire time. Because although the game is focused around builds, in PvP when I'm fighting somebody, it's just going to end up turning into stat padding, and I'm not going to enjoy that because when it came to other Armored Cores, right, players would have specific builds that can actually specialize in certain areas. Now, if we're both practically grounded and forced to stay at the same level since we're locked on, it might just turn into whoever has the best build wins, and I really hope that is not the case at all. I really hate to say it, but it looks like the combat is on training wheels, and it's not as freeform as it really could have been, or as freeform as I was hoping, because I really did love flying around the mech, going and flying at insane angles, making it so that no one could hit me, and then keeping my lock on my enemy, only to fuck them with the grenade launcher. Now that is just not looking like an option anymore. Also, if you're enjoying the content, please make sure to like the video and subscribe. It definitely helps out, and it makes it so that my channel doesn't die. Definitely do that. Because if we're locked on, what is it going to be? Like maybe 3 out of 10 shots are going to actually hit, and that's just the math behind the game playing for me, not myself. That doesn't feel like my own effort behind the controller. And I'm hoping I'm really wrong about this, because I am actually really excited for this game because I am actually loving the way it looks. I like the customization. I like the insane amount of details in the mechs, and I like seeing some of the old parts and weapons from previous games return. Recognizing them is insane, and seeing them reach a new level of polish And another thing, they were talking about this game being open world, right? That was one thing I would have been hyped for. I would have liked to see that. But it's following the mission structure of previous games. You know, that's not a problem for me. I'm just gonna fucking continue to play it. But I will admit, that mission structure is gonna have a lot less replay value in comparison to exploring a giant, massive open world in your mech. Doing the same set of missions over and over seems like it will get a lot more stale in comparison to flying around and exploring locations and killing anything and everything in sight with your robot. But then again, we don't want this shit to be a Souls clone, let alone an Elden Ring clone. God knows how many open world games we've gotten in the last decade. So I can't say I'm too mad about the mission structured system. Even then, I still enjoyed doing the missions in the previous games because it always offered some sort of challenge that would force you to be flexible with whatever build you're trying to do. And what makes things interesting is the very fact that we're getting revive kits in the game. And of course, what can you compare that to? Estus flasks in the Souls games. Alright, I'm not gonna get mad over the revive kits because I will admit, if it's really that bad and it's that easy, just play on hard mode. You know, it's not that big a deal. I will admit, I do not like to see the amount of reference that is being used from Souls games to affect Armored Core because at the end of the day, I just want Armored Core to be what it originally was and because I enjoyed the game for what it was. Now, if we're gonna wait half a damn decade, no, not half a decade, literally a decade for a new game, only for it to be thrown together to be something that is no longer the same game that we enjoyed long before, then that's where I can definitely see an issue. And I wouldn't say it's a matter of gatekeeping or anything crazy like that, because we've had so many games doing these things. You know, there have been massive changes in some of the other games. They have found new ways to innovate, but it never should refrain from the idea of what Armored Core is. And that's really the biggest issue here because there's nothing wrong with a few minor changes in gameplay, but it feels like it's a complete overhaul from what we're supposed to expect when it comes to the identity of the series. Previous games, they may have made the combat faster, or maybe even slower, or maybe a little bit more technical, but at the end of the day, it was always firing and aiming. And with Armored Core 6, it looks like it's taking too big of a leap out of the game's original game design that was established way before. There's another thing to press on, and that is the very fact that you can switch your mech mid-mission. Alright, I like it because it makes it a lot more conventional so it doesn't feel like I'm wasting my time, but I think it really takes away from the true value behind taking apart your mech and putting it together. It really takes away the nice bit of stress and experience that you obtain from building the Armored Core unit that you have, because when you actually have to go through the entire mission again, you can really see the vast differences in gameplay and you really get to flesh out and learn how the game is actually supposed to be played. And you gain your own situational awareness and you get a better understanding of the game's core mechanics. Now, if I'm not going back through the same section with a different AC unit, I'm not really going to understand why the mechanics are so important, and I'm not really going to understand what really makes Armored Core Armored Core. Then again, that's always just debatable. It's just a bit ironic because I would say From Software seem to be the most hardcore developers out here, but now they're kind of doing the exact opposite with one of their IPs. It's definitely awkward to say the least, but all I gotta say is I want to see what happens because the game definitely looks fun, fast-paced, fluid, and fights look a lot like anime fights when it comes to these mechas, alright? These AC units, and that is something I really cannot wait to try and actually get my hands on a controller and seeing for myself how everything really works. I will admit, I've been on the game's case a lot, but those boss fights, those shits are actually looking really insane. And that is one thing I really want to see, how this changes up the formula for the series, because, I mean, we've always had boss fights in the past, And those were fun, you know, jumping around and shooting everyone with my grenade launcher and outmaneuvering them. Before, the combat would have been more of a gunfight, and now it's more of a dance. And I gotta say, that is a little bit disappointing, but regardless, I'm gonna be ready to buy this shit day one, and I'll see the rest of you online. Hopefully, the PvP finds some way to work out, because honestly, I was thinking about it, I just don't know how different ranges and weapons are going to work when we're all going to be locked on. Like, when I think about it, it just makes me think snipers are either going to be broken or totally useless unless you're using that shit like a shotgun, but honestly, we'll just have to wait and see. I'll see you Ravens next time.